starting next year, ladies and gentlemen, every newborn child will because we are linking the births and deaths with the NIA and the Ghana Health Service, every newborn child will within a month be issued with a national ID number. And so when you are issued at birth, you will have your national ID number, and that will be your number until death. But you can only be issued a card when your biometrics are fully formed. That is after you are 6 years old and going. Then you will get a card. But for now, you will have a paper card to give you your national ID number, which you will use all the way in life.
Right. So you've just been listening to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Vice President, and he has been speaking on transforming an economy through digitalization and the Ghana story. I will admit that I have been surprised to hear some amount of negative commentary because it will seem as if it's a good path to building a country in a very sound way. So let's begin to take what it is that makes it important to look at the economy through this way. So Gideon, I've introduced to you already. We don't have too much time. So let's begin to look at what the issues really are. Why is this a focus, so to speak, of the administration in digitizing almost every sector? Of course, there are questions coming up because some of the areas that he speaks about, people can't exactly see what he's talking about. They are far removed from it, or they don't really see it happening.
Yeah, I think government basically exists to act on the mandate that the people have given to her, and to exercise that mandate in such a way that efficiency is brought to bear and people's sufferings are reduced. Whichever way you want to execute the plan to achieve that result is the ultimate thing that you have to do as a government. We all agree with the fact that our public administration system and our society is fraught with a lot of inefficiencies. More or less, our system has become bureaucratic, red tape, and more or less serving as a detriment to business growth. And so we need to think about new ways of doing things to make sure we bring efficiency into our public administration systems, to spare growth, to reduce costs, to improve the system. But how do you go about that? You know, society and the world has evolved. We've evolved from the period of the first industrial revolution, where the focus was on steam engine, came to the second industrial revolution of science and mass production, the third industrial revolution of digital technology, and now we are under the fourth industrial revolution, where we are looking at the interplay with all of these revolutionary periods to ensure that we spare growth and then people become okay in life. This transition also comes with its own terms, and that is where digital technology comes to play. Today, because of the transition, we have e-procurement, e-marketing, e-business, electronic money, and we are talking about digital governance. If you are a government and you indeed want to move with the contemporary trends, you then have to think about the new ways things are moving and then make sure you adapt and then move your country towards that direction. That is exactly what we are trying to do as a government. I'm not saying that this is the first time any government has tried to pursue any digitization agenda, but it appears, though, that Ghanaians are seeing some re-energized effort into the whole digitization agenda. And the focus, overarching objective, is to make sure that our economic growth is spared, and then people can have jobs, you can have the opportunity to also bring down some of the problems that people face. After the Vice President spoke, many people have asked the question, how is this digitization agenda going to help the economy to grow and also going to make sure that people get jobs? I've heard somebody say, yeah, Pejuma was a digitization. They want to understand the linkage between digitization and a lot of the economic fundamentals and issues we're talking about. Theoretically, I mean, that is established from the seminal work of Professor Schumpeter in the 1930s and the 1940s. while you talk about the need to replace long-standing old practices with modern technology and systems that ensures efficiency and also create jobs and all of that.
Yeah.
That is why he talks about the creative destruction.
Yes, so digitization of the passport office, the ports, the DVLA, establishment of the Ghana government platform, medical drone system, all of these things, getting 15.5 million people on the Ghana card and expecting more by 2020. How does that translate? Unique addresses for 7.5 million properties in Ghana, along with street names and house numbers, which have been provided, and all of that. How does that address my bread and butter issues? How does that address my kinky that continues to shrink? I think that's a question people are asking.
Yeah, exactly. And people link it to how does it address the issue of exchange rate depreciation, inflation, and all of that.
Right.
First and foremost, if we want to talk about the price of kinky, price build-ups on commodities or goods and services on the market come from different angles. But one other area that people may also see price build-ups is the exchange rate exposures. Of course, if your currency goes down, your imports become expensive, and then the price is passed on to consumers, and they have to pay. But the question that we need to ask ourselves is to sit down critically as a country to see how we can get all these problems solved. One of the ways by which our exchange rate gets depreciated is the increasing debt levels that we have as a country. Why would a country go and borrow? Countries go to borrow because their domestic revenue mobilization is not enough to take care of the critical expenditure that they need to do. In this country, we're about 14.5% of our tax to GDP ratio. So we are unable to raise so much revenue to take care of what we need to do. Then the question then comes as to, if you don't have revenue domestically, you have to go and borrow from the international market. Once you go to borrow, and the payment is due for you to make, you need to change cedis to go and buy dollars. And that, of course, exerts pressure on your currency. Your currency what? Depreciates. Once it depreciates, your imports become expensive. Once your imports become expensive, prices of goods on the market also become expensive or increase. And that is where you have inflation. So you need to sit down critically as a country that if you want to reduce your debt, external debt, then you need to raise more revenue. But you cannot impose tax burdens on the very few people who pay taxes all the time. You need to increase the tax net.
So practically speaking, if you had before now, if you had only 4% of Ghanaians who had their TIN, and after the digitization processes, now you have, and the Ghana card processes and the mergers that have happened, now you have 86% of Ghanaians who have TIN. What does that translate into domestic revenue mobilization?
So what it means is that you have increased the number of people who potentially can file their taxes from 4% to 86%. So that is a broadening of the tax base. Because when you have a population where the number of people who are willing and potentially can file their tax is just anemic relative to the total population, then you cannot realize so much tax revenue. So this issue of broadening the tax net, the tax net is not like a balloon that you can stretch to broaden it. You need to put in place systems and processes to make it easy and friendly for people to file their taxes. So we have done this, converted all tax identification numbers to the NIA card number. And then also gone a step further to make sure that we integrate an app so that you can even file your taxes on your phone. Once you do that, you've solved a certain problem of the domestic revenue mobilization. And once you do that, and going forward, you're able to increase your revenue, domestic revenue. Your external borrowings come down. Once your external borrowings come down, the pressure on your currency also comes down. So you achieve some relative stability of your currency. And once your currency becomes relatively stable, your imports do not become such expensive. And by so doing, you're able to reduce inflation on your market. So people who want to understand the linkage between digitization and then economic development, this is basically what we are talking about. Then also, there are others who ask the question about how are you using digitization to create jobs? Yeah, Juma was a digitization, but I say, I mean, it's so open that because of the digitalization agenda we are doing, the mobile money interoperability, today look at the volumes of trade that take place on Instagram and Facebook. People are able to have their products advertised, and these young girls who have come out of school, they don't have money to rent a shop or something. Their office is their car boot, is their hostel, is their bedroom, and they are able to ply their trade on the internet, and people are able to advertise products. People are able to see the products, show interest in them, order them, and pay for those products with mobile money payments interoperability. That is what technology and digitization is doing to us.
As we understand, mobile money transactions have done more, far more than bank transactions.
Exactly.
Just hold on briefly for me. Let me go to Professor Samuel Chinibua Kodia. Prof, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes, and we apologize once again, most sincerely, that we have very limited time to deal with this. From where you sit, this digitization or digitalization agenda, how does it improve our economy?
Thank you for that, and thank you for your listeners. In fact, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Let me first say that we are far behind this. I must also say that I am academic and researcher, so I'm looking at it from academic perspective. We don't criticize, we critique. I must also say that I'm not a professor. A professor is sitting there in academic environment. If you quote somebody's title wrongly, somebody can take it on. Please, I'm a doctor, I'm not a professor yet.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. The PhD is a long way, so that's a lot of work you have done. So we have to recognize that. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Good. I must say that in perspective of this, I think we are far behind. Digitization, from what our Honorable Vice President has said, is more of automation. And if you look at technology transformation, that is far behind. Countries that have developed have gone beyond automation to artificial intelligence. In fact, not only developing applications, as in this case, but actually gone beyond exporting intelligence knowledge. That is where income is being generated. Sadly, we have these applications, which are quite good. The terminology of infrastructure, technology, digitization infrastructure also is a bit problematic here. But most of the things you've listed in the report, I've listed all of them, about 17. I can say that they are all technology applications and not infrastructure. Cyber infrastructure goes beyond the application that I've listed here. So I'll say that. Yes, when it comes to digitization, of course, it's the order of the day. I'm currently on a project from Canada where they are looking at how they can use artificial intelligence to support public sector work. The first and the primemost of it is to cut down costs. Our brother said, government is spending a lot in terms of the way they do things manually. So bringing technology solution in here as automation, the first principle is to cut down costs. Sometimes in this country, because we are paid in month, we don't appreciate time. So today, I mean, some of us from village, you used to send money through people to your grannies out there, and everything will get to the village except your remittance. Yeah, you've been able to send money at the comfort of your home everywhere you are in the world to grannies. Fantastic. These are not things we need to trivialize them at all. Of course, we are far behind, but I said that a journey of 1,000 miles start with a step. So it's a nice move, and I think we are far behind. We shouldn't look at the negative of it. Look at the positives of it. Of course, there are challenges. Now, with your permission, I'll look at a few things that I need to draw my broader attention in terms of the advantages that we are checking. And I'll dip into what he has done. Me, in my case, I'll look at the issue of adoption and use, implementation and sustainability. That is our major problem in Ghana here. When issue comes like this, one government is introducing it. Very good. So it's government A, everything, publication, they have it. How sustainable are these in terms of new government taking up? We have multiple projects, IT projects that has been abandoned because of change of government. Sometimes we forget that these things are state resources that went into it. Of course, We might not know the costs that have gone into it, except the addressing system that we knew that, I stand for correction, I read it from media, that about $2 million went into the addressing system. We'll come back to that. How sustainable into this should a new government take over? We also look at costs and returns on investment. So take the digitalized addressing system. It was implemented over 3 years ago. 2 million supposedly went into it. If it is private sector, you ask the person that, okay, this 2 million that went into it, what has been the return on its investment? Today, you and I and all of us sitting here, how many people share address with a GPS address? I tell you what, I went to GRA office at Adenta, a place called SDA Junction. There's this in there, to register a tax for a colleague. I was asked to draw. So I asked them, what is the purpose of GPR system that we have? Why should I draw a location to someone's office? But that is what I did. Monday, I was at one of the banks, Ecobank, to be specific. They don't accept NIA card. Vice President made us understood that now liaising with Google to integrate it with Google App. All of us here, we use Google App now. Now that people have come to accept Google location, when are they going to change our mind to GPS that we start sharing it? Today, if you enter your GPS system, will they take you to address? UK, US, you can type postcode and you get the address. You can type the address and get the postcode. My street.
Sorry, are you saying that doesn't happen because we are using Uber, we are using Bolt, we are inviting people to our workplaces, our offices, and all we do is to just send them the address and they come straight forward. You don't have to suffer.
Sharing Google address. We are not Google location, not a GPS address. I don't know if you have tried it with your friend. You've shared your GPS address and they have come to your house before. You can educate me. I haven't done that, and I stand for correction if anybody has done it and got a good result of it. I have not gotten it. My house, the same street, opposite doors have different address, street names. Why? These are the things we need to query the system. We are attacking it. As I said, I am academic.
Okay. Now, Doc, just hold on briefly for me. Let me bring on Professor Bokpin. Professor Godfred Bokpin, thank you very much for your time, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Right.
And to our cherished listeners.
So from where you sit, looking at the bigger picture, if we have generated 7.5 million property addresses in Ghana, unique addresses, street names, house numbers, and so forth. If with the Ghana card, we are trying to do what we are seeking to do with it, and we have 15.7 million people on the Ghana card. A friend told me about how his Ghana card was used in the US when he flouted a traffic regulation, and they just swipe it, and all his details popped up. And he was able to pay his penalty and move on. What does all that mean to you from where you sit?
Okay, thank you very much. I think this is a laudable move, and I share with a perspective that is long overdue. In fact, others have gone far ahead of us. We are more or less at the basis of the digital transformation. That said, I think that there is huge potential from the steps that we are taking. If we also take time to address the technical issues underlining them, the procurement issues and the transparency and all of that, then we'll be able to translate the hypothesized benefit, as somebody would say, from theory into actual. Look at it this way. We have struggled as a country since independence to generate tax revenue. And one of the reasons, I think Dr. Boakun has talked about that, and it's all over the place. Property tax, we are not getting enough from that level, even compared to our peers. And the reason is also because of the lack of data that would enable you to do proper assessment and defend that. So if you are able to digitize that space, and then you're able to capture them in, you can raise proper assessment and generate the much needed tax. which is then good for development. We are not doing quite well from that point. Then it doesn't end there. The challenge we have is how do you link all of these things with the various agencies to ensure that people don't escape the net, right? Because the net tends to capture vulnerable people and the poor, okay? But the very powerful people who own these properties and all of that actually tear through the net and all of that. So, and also because of the huge informal nature of our economy, these are all steps trying to formalize the informal economy along a certain continuum. And something, let's put it within perspective. Nothing can replace digitization. Is the way to go. Studies have shown that the digital economy is going to grow faster than the traditional economy. What is the digital economy? There's a difference between the digital economy and the traditional economy. The digital economy is the economy that is based on the use of technologies and the economic output that arises as a result of use of digitization and all of that. That said, there is also a difference between digitization and digitalization. The first level is almost where we are converting physical document data into, let's say, digital formats. The second level is leveraging on that to improve business competitiveness and generating additional cash flow. That is where we are looking at it. Now, and you see, we are a bit behind, and even the African Union has actually recognized this under the African Continental Free Trade. So far, Protocol 1 has been negotiated, trade in goods and services. Protocol 2 is being negotiated, which has to do with competition policy, intellectual property, and all of that. Recognizing the importance of digitization, digital trade, e-commerce, the 13th Extraordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government took a decision to bring forward the Phase 2 negotiations, which pertains to e-commerce, digitization, and all of that. This is to recognize the role that digitization plays in this whole African continental free trade. So this is not something that even government should take to itself alone. We are looking at broadening the digitization and digitalization agenda across private sector so that they can use that to take advantage of the African continental free trade. So for instance, as we speak right now, aided by Afrexim Bank, headquartered in Egypt, and African Central Banks, they have developed what we call the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, okay, and which is to link the African market, because wherever trade flows, payment is important. So we need to scale up the capacity, the digital capacity of the Ghanaian private sector and the youth to be able to take advantage from that. Other than that, we'll lose out.
Prof,
when you look at the scale,
yes, Prof, when it comes to the Ghana being the first country in Africa and one of the few in the world to achieve the type of interoperability between banks and mobile wallets, one may understand that that permeates, and the beneficiaries, it goes to almost everybody. But when we are talking about, say, the Ghana card enrollment, and that's 15.7 million, and it is going to be accepted in 197 countries and 444,000 airports, 44,000 airports in the world by the first quarter of 2022. Is this not some, middle-class life thing that we are improving rather than the other people, everybody, the majority, so to speak?
Precisely, that was the point my colleague from GIMPA was talking about, that others have gone far ahead. Others are talking about artificial intelligence, right? Distributed ledger technology, machine learning, and all of that. But I think because we didn't have this, and we have now started, it looks like great news for us. But I think these are also important building blocks that we can leverage on going forward. And we need to recognize that and then build on that quite quickly. But beyond that, you see, the digital infrastructure underlining all of these things and the necessary investment, we have not done that.
Exactly.
And that is why my colleague from GIMPA was talking about the fact that it's more of the apps that we are talking about now, and that our tertiary institutions are not equipped with the necessary lab and the digital infrastructure to scale up at the level others are doing and all of that. Look at the row recently between US, UK, and Australia by certain marine, nuclear, whatever, and all of that. So France got angry because, you know why? Not that they care so much about the security of Australia, it's the money. The billions of dollars that they are losing that is now going to US and UK and all of that. So I think that there's enough room for improvement, and that is where we should. And I can tell you that our digital infrastructure as it stands now is incapable of getting us to the level of digital transformation that allows us to compete even at the regional level. I was going to make the point that if you look at the scale, Ghana is far behind, even Libya, Mauritius, Kenya, okay, and even Nigeria in some aspects. So yes, we have made some record, and of course, I respect the perspective and the energy and the dynamism the vice president has brought on board. But if you look at it on a certain scale, we are still far behind, and we need to and government need to complement and work with private sector to generate.
Now hold on there for me. So Professor Bochi, and those of you who are not too familiar with Professor Bochi when it comes to matters of economy, I'm sure you have been shocked on this platform before.
Really?
now, like the two, TK, Doc, and then Professor Bokpin are talking about that. In fact, we are far behind, even in what we are beginning to celebrate as we have achieved. As far as they are concerned, these are modest. So if this is that important, what is it that we are supposed to do that we haven't done? If this will improve service delivery in the public, among other things, as we have seen is being talked about.
So the production, storage, and retrieval of information has been a problem in Ghana. Anybody can hardly dispute that. We don't produce information well, we don't store it well, and it's difficult to retrieve when we have to. And since data is the building block of development, and today data is the leading factor, and for the most important thing in the world today is data. And so since data is so critical in development, the production, storage, and retrieval of data cannot be underestimated. Some will add the syndication of data. The ability to synthesize data, the ability to produce data in one end and use it in another end, the systemic character of data, it's important. And I think that digitization is an important factor in this regard. COVID has even further underlined the imperatives of the digital economy and the need for us as a country to go digital. I think some people may have complained about some fundamentals, and I heard the Professor Bokpin and my former colleague at GIMPA also speak on some of the key things that we need to pay attention to. And I'll add that it's important for us to then pay attention to digital literacy. We cannot build a digital economy that is functional in the absence of digital literacy. Have we prioritized literacy, digital literacy in our schools? I'm mindful of your time, so I'm just going to quickly run on this. But have we prioritized digital literacy in our schools? Our schools are still teaching. There was this funny video that made around, not funny, but rather sad video that made around on WhatsApp some time ago about a teacher who was teaching a school, a bunch of kids in the village, about computers. And he had to draw it on the board. So in 20-something, our teachers are still teaching by drawing things on the board when they need to actually have these things in labs.
Right.
How many of our schools still have labs? And how have we prioritized digital education? We may be putting the cart before the horse, even though we are already late in getting that horse around in the first place, and therefore we can't even wait. So perhaps we've gotten to that point where we need to build the economy, but we have to build the skills alongside this. So skills training and the education and literacy. We need to also then work fundamentally on the question of trust. When mobile money started in Ghana, people were not quite sure what it was. And it took a while before it caught on. Nigeria has piloted what they call the e-Naira. And Ghana has just announced, I think, its intention to go the ECD as well. We can learn from Nigeria's experience. Nigeria is still suffering seriously from the e-naira in terms of trust. When people are not sure of something, it takes a while before they warm up to it. The digital economy is important. It probably is here, but it's imperative that we build trust. The next point I'm going to mention is the question of the inclusion, digital inclusion. We still have a lot of places in Ghana that, frankly, are just cut off from anything happening. And the danger of further reinforcing this, when you bring a digital economy and a digital system, which many people, frankly, even the people in the cities, are not quite sure how to go about things. And then you have people who, frankly, are out there. Basic literacy is a problem. Access to basic resources are problems. They basically just get dislocated, and these people are cut off. So you create an exclusivity scenario. I think you were mentioning the question of elitism. Right. And that is where the critique of elitism may come in. It may be an unintended consequence of the digital economy. So digital inclusion is important. But the final point I'll make, and that's, I think, something Professor Bokpin also probably touched on, but he didn't probably mention the example I'll mention. The issue of systemic infrastructure. You don't just deal with the digital economy as an isolated scenario. There are supporting systemic infrastructure. For example, in a digital economy where electricity cannot be guaranteed, you will create more problems than we used to have with a non-digital one. Right. So if I go to the Registrar General, today even they are going digital, but a few years ago, they'll pull my file. And my file was a physical file. Yeah. And unless it's rained and the place
and your file could get lost.
Well, that could get lost.
Just like in the court.
That's another problem. But unless it's rained and they cannot locate my file, they are likely to pull something physical. But if you go there today and the lights are off, it means that you have to wait. Because there's, whatever it is that they have to produce for you is stored digitally, is stored electronically, and they can't pull it out. So the digital economy cannot be negotiated. It's an imperative of our time. It's necessary. I can't foresee how anybody could reasonably critique it. It's an important thing. Right. But if you do not build the supporting systems and infrastructure, if you do not create the inclusive environment, if you don't deal with the question of skills training and literacy, you may create an economy which may find itself insulated.
Okay. This is a message. This says that it's from PK in Elembele, and Dr. Bokpin, I want you to address that. It says, my take on digitization or digitalization in Ghana is this. In fact, it offers convenience, makes things easy and simple. But this government cannot outsmart Ghanaians now. Why couldn't the digitalization help to maintain our brothers and sisters who were working as NAPCO? Okay, so I don't know. I thought it was getting a certain direction, but obviously I don't know. Yeah, so I had suggested that, I had said that someone used the Ghana card in the US. I'm trying to confirm with my friend, but I understand it must have been the person's ATM card rather than the person's Ghana card. How do you address the issues of some banks not accepting the Ghana card? My bank, AFSA, they accept the Ghana card, but we know EcoBank, is it SGSSB, they don't accept it.
Yeah, I think, first of all, the consensus around this table is that digitization is good for us. We are lagging behind. We need to accelerate.
It's inevitable.
The rate at which we're even digitizing and digitalizing our economy.
It's slow.
And so that's agreeable. On the issue of the Ghana card and its acceptability in certain private and public areas in the country, I think it all boils down to the integration process. After having the card, you need to go the step forward to make sure you integrate it with the key agencies and then also the private sector to make sure its acceptability is high. So we've started the integration process. With respect to the integration with the bank database, that is not yet complete, and that is why some banks are not accepting the card now, depending on what they think the card can be used for at their bank. It's not just the Ghana card. Even the previous election, 2020 voters ID card, some banks don't accept it because the integration process with all of that have not been completed. So that is a step where the
Ghana card is becoming the passport. Why should we have this at this time?
So it's in phases. That is the phase we're in now. We've started integration with the National Health Insurance Card, integration with SNIT, integration with DVLA and the insurance companies and all of that. So that part with the bank's database, and mind you, the bank is also a private sector. There are a lot of technicalities and issues that go on with the integration with the database of the banks, and so that is where we are now. The banks will have to have some level of assurance, cybersecurity issues, and then make sure everything is well and properly done before that integration is completed. So far as the integration is completed, banks will begin to accept. We cannot have a Ghana card that is not acceptable by banks. You understand? That is so critical, because part of the reasons why, and part of the economic solutions we are seeking to have with the Ghana card is the impact on cost of credit.
Right.
So if we are not able to integrate the bank database, then the objective of using the Ghana card, the digital property address system,
So
to reduce the risk
EcoBank, I'm getting the
borrowers.
information that they have started this month accepting the Ghana card.
Yeah.
And the reference I was also making about the card, it was rather the driver's license.
Okay.
Yeah, the DVLA. But that is being integrated into the Ghana card.
Yeah.
The Ghana card, all other cards are being integrated
We want to subsume everything into the Ghana card to make it one. So we have a unique identity. So the identity of people will then not become questionable.
Okay.
Let me touch briefly on the issue of the Ghana Post GPS. Yes, I agree.
Some 30 seconds.
And Prof. Abochi talked about digital literacy. When you put in a system and people don't really get to understand the usefulness of it, the adaptability becomes an issue. So we realize that asking people to download Ghana Post GPS app on their phones is not something that everybody may want to do. People see Google Maps and WhatsApp user-friendly. And that is why we've gone a step forward to have discussion with Google Maps, and Google Maps has agreed that we can input all our digital property addresses into Google Maps, and that becomes easier for people to go to Google Maps, key the number, and then it pops up and they're able to get direction. I think the next forward going is also to talk with WhatsApp to make sure that we integrate with the WhatsApp, because people find it so easy using WhatsApp to send locations through Google Maps and all of that. So it's a stepwise procedure. You get one thing done, then you move on. And it's also technology. And as we go along, things may evolve, and we have to change strategy, we have to upgrade. And that is why today we have, WhatsApp and all of that upgrading themselves to.
So you are not saying we have arrived?
No, we've not arrived. In fact, like we all agree, we are lagging behind, but within our setting and our scope. This is where we have come to, and why we need to
I want to thank you so very much, and once again apologize for how we have to manage with very limited time. Dr. Gideon Boako, a spokesperson and aide to the Vice President. Dr. Samuel Cheneboa-Kodia, a senior lecturer at Gimpa School of Technology. Professor Kofi Abochi is Dean, UPSA Law School. And Professor Godfred Bokpin is Professor of Finance and Economist at the University of Ghana. Thank you all so very much. And my art face has been by Habils Couture. Habils Couture. They are at Adjiringano Gates, East Legon. You can call them at 0200 84 1988. 0200 84 1988. There are too many of you talking about my dress. Yeah, so get to them. Thank you. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. God willing, next week we'll come your way with another edition of Newsfile. Have a good afternoon.